Hello, good to see you all again. My name is Barbara Ellmann and welcome to Lincoln Center's Pop-Up Classroom. I happen to be an artist and a museum educator and a teaching artist at Lincoln Center. And I am so glad you're back. And today, I'm sure you can tell what we're going to be doing. We're going to be mask making. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're going to be making. So we're going to be using shapes that we've been working with before that are two-dimensional geometric shapes, and we're going to be making them three-dimensional. And the way that we're going to be doing that is by using techniques we've already explored and a couple of new ones. So you're going to need quite a few materials today. Here's the list, and I'm going to read them off and show them to you one at a time. So you're going to need to have a cardboard box. I've got a big one, and I think you're going to want something that's kind of large, bigger than a shoebox. You're going to also need a shopping bag. You're going to need white paper. I'd say 3 or 4 sheets will do it, and you might even be able to put some away when we're done that we didn't use. You're going to want to have a pair of scissors. You're going to want a black Sharpie marker, white glue, any white glue, and you're going to want to have either a shoelace or an elastic cord or even a ribbon. This is a heavy-duty twine. Any one of those items will work to help you attach the mask to the back of your head. And if you happen to have it in your home, I would ask you to gather a few of these clothespins. If you don't have clothespins, an optional material are business paper holding clips like this, or even paper clips like this, large ones I would say. So if you would like to pause while you run off to get your supplies, that would be fine. And when you come back, you start it up again. I'll be right here waiting for you. So now we're going to do a sketch of the mask that you would like to make today. And I'm going to just talk you through it. You're going to need your marker and you're going to need your white piece of paper. So the first thing that I would like you to do, and this is going to be rather quick, I'd like you to just make an outline, picking one of the shapes perhaps, or your own other shape. I'd like you to make an outline of what you can imagine the outside of the head's going to be. Is it going to be round like sort of human heads? Is it going to be square like a robot? Is it going to be triangular? Is it going to be long, like a long rectangle? You decide and just draw that first. And then I want you to think about what shape would be good for the eyes. Will it have eyelashes? Will it have a pupil in the center? Will there be eyebrows? What kind of eyes will they be? Will they be squinty eyes? Will they be eyes wide open? And then I want you to think about what kind of nose your mask is going to have. And of course, what kind of mouth. Now you get to pick any of the features you would like to use. You could make ears or not. And you can also think about hair and beards and braids and ponytails and whatever you would like. But I also want you to think about, is there an animal who has some special features that you would like to include? Like I did in the mask that's behind me. I made 2 different types of horns, ones that stick up very straight and a pair that sort of swing out to the side. And I have another mask with a gigantic nose on it, kind of like the beak of a bird. And then I have feathers around the outside edge. And then in this one, I have giant eyes and a funny little goatee. So you get to use whatever shapes you like and think about the features of a face. Part human and part animal. I hope that your drawing's almost done. And if you need a couple more minutes, you can just pause. And again, I'll be here. So this is the drawing that I came up with. I have a triangle-shaped face. I have droopy rabbit ears. I have a big triangle nose and a tiny little mouth. And I'm going to be thinking about these shapes as I move forward and thinking about how I'm going to cut out the shape of my head. So I need a triangle shape. And a simple way of doing that is just drawing a triangle on one side of my cardboard box and then cutting this out. And that would be just fine, a fine way to work. You also could do a circle shape, easy. Just draw it and then cut it out. You want it to be large enough so it covers your face. That's what you're looking for. But I came up with another idea that I think is really cool. It's a little bit more advanced to even think of it, but I think you're going to enjoy it. I stuck my head in a box like this. And I thought I could use the corner of the box to cut out for this shape. And look what I did. I used this corner. You can see it. I drew it in a red line. And I made it like this big sort of triangle. It's a little bit curved on the top. I decided that that would sit on top of my head much more comfortably. And I thought that that would be a really interesting shape to have. So you're now going to cut out from the cardboard box the shape of the mask that you'd like to work with. If you want it to be a square or a rectangle, you could just cut off part of the box and this whole thing could become the face of the shape of your head. Or you could make it any shape that you like. So I cut along the red lines out of my cardboard box, and this is what I ended up with. This is the corner of the box, and it sits on my face like this. This little ridge is very helpful because it sits right on top of my head, and that allows me to wear it. I'm going to put this aside for now because I really want to talk to you about your mask. So I don't know what shape your head of your mask is going to be. But once you've got that figured out, I want to draw your attention to these techniques. 3 that we've used before in a previous program: fold, roll, and pleat. And 3 new techniques of making paper 3-dimensional: fringe, twist, and curl. Now, I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you might have in your drawing. So if you happen to have an elephant's trunk, which one of these techniques do you think would be a good way to make an elephant's trunk? Or if you happen to have ears, funny ears, which of these shapes might you use? Which of these techniques might you use to make those shapes be 3D? Maybe folding, maybe pleating. If you have ears and you want them to stand up, how would you do that? So I want you to think about what animal parts would look best using one of these techniques, and which features of the face you'd like to make using the techniques. This is already, like, you could imagine this as a nose, don't you think? Or this is hair. Look what happens when I hold it up. It becomes very 3D. So I think these different techniques lend themselves to a variety of uses. This is also fabulous for hair, curling, or fur. So looking at your mask, I want you to really think, looking at your drawing of your mask, I want you to really think which of these techniques would be most suitable for what you're trying to make. And I'm going to show you a project that I'm working on that has to do with that shape that I've already shown you and this drawing. And you can watch me work, and then you can get to work on your own, or you can work right alongside me making decisions as you go. So I've been thinking about my mask design and the paper techniques that I've got hanging now behind me. And I've started my work, and now I kind of want to show you in real time how I'm going step by step with my project. One of the things that I'm trying to do with the different things I'm attaching to the mask is to exaggerate, to make them larger than life, to really expand on the ideas. And I got a new pair of shoes in that very box I showed you. And inside of the shoes were these funny inserts that were keeping the shoes nice and kind of puffy, I guess. And I thought, gee, I could use these for my rabbit's ears. So my design idea kind of changed from the drawing that I did to the materials that I happen to find. And so that might happen to you as we go along. And don't worry about that. That's totally fine. So I'm going to put a little glue on this second ear. And you always want to remember not to use so much glue that it takes a long time to dry. Of course, our clothespins, if you happen to have them, or those business doggy clips or whatever they're called, will help you keep things in position. So I think that's where my second ear is going to go. And I'm going to just clip it with this clothespin. And I think I'm going to need 2 clothespins to keep it exactly in position. If I only use my fingers, I'd have to count to probably about 25, very slowly and silently to myself, to make sure that the glue had dried before I put it down on the table. But since I have those clamps, I can just lay it right down. Now, I found on a bag this big red Target, and you might know of a store called that, Target, and I thought, oh, I'm going to use those for the eyebrow and the eye that I have drawn in my drawing. The eye's a little bit different, and so is the eyebrow, and of course it made me want to raise the eyebrow up so it would be very much three-dimensional. And you might figure it out already which technique I used to make that stick out. And so I folded the eyebrow, and I'm going to fold the eye just a tiny bit, right in the middle. And so that will help me figure out how to position this so it's 3D. So here comes the second eye, brow, on my wild hair mask. Now, I'm really devoted to making my mask very three-dimensional. So I want to make sure that I don't put glue all over the back of my eye and then flatten it out when I attach it to the cardboard. I want it to stay with a little bit of a fold and a bulge so it's sticking out. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. See what I mean? Can you see that? How it's 3D and it's really jumping off the side there? In fact, everything's looking pretty 3D to me. And that's what I like. So I have a nose now. Remember that my nose is a triangle. So I cut out a triangle and I folded these little sides. And the reason I did that was because that's what I'm going to glue against my mask. So I'm going to run some glue. Again, not too much. I've got this little piece of cardboard underneath me in case any glue drops. I don't want to hurt my table. You might want to have a piece of newspaper or even one of those white pieces of paper that we also have standing by. So now I have to put some pressure on it here to make sure that it sticks. Oh, I should have put a little glue up here too. I'll do that in a moment. So I'm rubbing where I put the glue so the glue spreads out a little bit. And now I'm just tacking this little thing. I don't want it to fall off, and I don't want that little corner to stick up. You get to choose what you want to have stick up and stick out and what you don't by the way that you glue it. I like that the nose is sticking out a good distance. That's a bit of an exaggeration of a nose, isn't it? It's not the kind of nose that a rabbit would have. You know how a rabbit has a tiny little nose that they wiggle around. This is like a more human-like nose. I have some friends with very large noses. Sometimes I think my nose is pretty big. I like my eyebrows sticking up like that. Okay. Now, I have an idea. Because of this barcode, I'm going to make my own barcode. So I've cut up a little rectangle on my white paper, and I'm going to glue this flat, but I'm just going to make some stripes on it. The reason I'm doing this is because I want it to kind of match the other side of my mask. And it's reminding me of certain things that I've seen on masks before. It's like a special kind of tattooing that you sometimes see, ceremonial tattooing in a way. Sometimes it's called, in Africa, it's called scarification marks. And I thought that kind of looked like it to me. What do you think? I thought that was kind of a cool idea. Do you like it? Now, in my drawing, I had a funny little straight mouth. And I'm thinking that I thought originally that this would be the mouth. But honestly, it looks more like a mustache to me. So I'm going to glue it on as a mustache. And to do that, I have to glue it right underneath the nose. So I'm putting a little glue, right underneath the nose. And now I'm just going to hold this into position. Another silent counting. Now, if you've been watching me work with brown paper bags before, you're going to know that I have a special fondness for the handles of my brown shopping bags. And so I was thinking that I would use them to make another pair of ears, because remember, we're combining human characteristics and animal characteristics. And I have animal ears, but I don't really have human ears. And so I thought I would make this shape and figure out how to attach it to my mask to add a kind of human-like ear. So I'm going to try that now. And I think I'm going to do it on this side first because it's only going to go in certain places. Yeah, I think I have to do that. Let's see. When I mean it's only going to go in certain places, it's because I've already glued quite a bit of wild hair there. And I have to slip it in there somehow. Let's see how that works. Another good moment for, whoops, a clothespin. And let me see, don't want to knock off my mustache. I'm going to use 2 clothespins because I put it in such a funny spot there. If I put the ear on first and then the hair, that's going to make a lot more sense. Now let's see here. Little glue on the ends of these. Did you notice that I glued them together to make that first shape, that loop? And I had my clothespin holding it steady and in place. Now, what I want you to get from me demonstrating how I'm working is not what to make, but how to put things together. It reminds me of what I drew, that the mouth is so much lower than the nose. The mustache, I added that. I didn't know I was going to do that originally. And in in making the mask, I thought, oh, I would do that. And I didn't know I was going to do this originally until I noticed that this was already on the box. So things change. And you don't need to have matched your drawing, but your drawing really helps you think about, conceptualize, we call that, what it is you're going to make. And remember, we're trying to combine human characteristics with animal characteristics, and the idea of different paper making, paper twisting, curling, fringing, pleating, rolling techniques, and the idea of exaggeration, making some of the facial features or some of the features of your mask really, really stand out in space. So I think that he's pretty close to finished, though he definitely has to dry. And I'm going to definitely add some more fringe on the side, but I think I won't bother you with that. I'll do that after the program, finish him up. Or maybe I'll just pause for a moment and let you do some work. So I'll be back in a minute with fringe attached. Now, you might notice that on the masks that I have on the walls, I think all of them, yeah? Yes, all of the masks that I made earlier have a place for me to see through, see out of, you know? So when I put on the mask, I can see where I'm going. I can see what's happening in front of me. I won't trip, I won't fall over. So you're going to definitely want to figure out where you need to make a place to look through. But I know from my mask experiences that it doesn't necessarily have to be through the actual eyes of your mask. Like, I think a good place for me to cut places to see through would be, in fact, underneath these barcodes. Pardon me. Because my eye's about here. Let's see what that is. That's right into the barcode. Let's see if that's really true. Could I get away with here? I bet I could. So I'm going to just try that. Again, this is a good place for an adult to help. I'm going to just punch a little hole in here. I do that with my pointy scissors, and I'm just going to wiggle it around till I have a little hole, and I'm going to see if I can see through it. Well, yes, I can. And they kind of disappear amongst all the hullabaloo that's going on in my mask itself. I don't think you notice them too much. They're there, but I don't think that they really detract. You know, I had this idea that I might add some twisting to make a little beard too. And I can even do that with my fringe. I'm going to do some twisting in my fringe. Just going to take two fringes together, wrap them around each other. So then I can say I've done more twisting, and then I think I should do a little curling. Do you know how to do that? Where you take your scissors, you open them up, and you just run it across the paper fringe, and that kind of turns it into a bit of a curl. And since I've decided that this is a wild hair, it's fun to have the fringe moving in all different types of direction. But isn't that kind of fun to have some curls going on in there as well? And let me just check my eye holes. Oh yes, I can see you. What do you think? So I'm going to want to wear this mask, and I'm going to want to wear it to maybe Mr. B's pop-up classroom or Yvonne's pop-up classroom and do some dancing in it. It'd be fun to have a mask go to a pop-up classroom with. So I'll tell you what it needs now. It's the last step. I need to be able to attach my string or shoelace. If you ever noticed, your eye and your ear are about on the same level. And so if I can see through here, then I think that I need to attach my string right there. And again, this is a poking moment. It doesn't need to be as big a hole as I did for my eye, because this is just to get the string through. And I'm going to do one on the other side. Now this shoelace is gigantically long, so I'm not going to cut it until I've laced it all the way through. So that's the side that's giving me a bit of a trouble. This side can go through. So you're just going to take it to the outside edge, and you're going to tie it. I'm going to make a little knot. If I had a brown shoelace, I think I'd like it all the more, or something brown. And then I'm going to attach it to the other side. Probably have to do a little bit of measuring. So this again will need a little bit of help from a grown-up, I think. And I'll attach it to the other side, and I will have a finished mask. This is one wild hair, all right. You know what a hare is, right? It's a kind of rabbit. And then of course this is wild hair also. This is his wild hair. So that's a bit of a pun. You know, because hair means two things. It means the kind of animal, but it's also the hair on its head. So I'm kind of pleased with the double ears. And I like that the ears have the same kind of feel as my eyebrows, which they're sticking out in space and there are holes in the middle. So this is my almost finished mask. I just need to get that hole to go all the way through after the program. Probably next time you see me, it'll be hanging up on the wall. But I have something else that I would like to show you, which is a mask that I think is very special from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. At the Metropolitan Museum, they have a very fine African art collection. And this is called a Banda mask, and it's in that collection. It comes from the Nalu and Baga people of Guinea in West Africa. And this mask combines both human and animal characteristics. Where the Baga Nalu people live, it's a very swampy area. And if you take a look at the very edge of this mask on the right side, you're going to see that it runs like all these little teeth are running along the edge, like the teeth of a crocodile. And at the very top of the mask are a series of long, pointy horns, maybe from an antelope. And there's a curly part at the very back edge that is described by the museum as the body of a serpent. Take a look at how large the human nose is and the eyes on this mask. So see if you see any other parts of this mask that look like an animal, or any other parts of this mask that look like human features, because I think they are both here. I have some other pictures of this mask that will give us some other views, and we have to see it from different angles because it's three-dimensional. So this is a close-up of the very bottom front, I'm going to call it, of the mask, the bottom of the face. And you can see how large those eyes are. And also we're looking at the nose straight on. What do you think those curly lines mean in the black area underneath the nose? And what about those little dots? I'm wondering about that. This is a side view, and you can still see the eyes at the bottom left-hand corner. But now we get to see something else, another animal that's perched on the forehead, I'm going to call it, of this mask. And that animal is described as being a chameleon. And you might know something about chameleons. They have some strange characteristics, unusual animal characteristics. When a chameleon is on a green surface, like a plant, it can change its body and make itself green. I don't know how it does that, but that allows the chameleon to blend into its environment. That's its camouflage. But when it's on the trunk of a tree that's brown, it can change itself again and become invisible on the trunk of a tree, blending right into the bark. There are a lot of patterns on this mask. Do you see any? What shapes are making up those patterns? And I even see some like X's. You see a little bit of those crocodile teeth from this angle. And take a look at the human hairdo, the braids that make up the hair, so the human aspect of the hair on top of the mask. Here's another view. Now, when this mask is worn, it is part of ceremonies. It's worn on top of the head, rather like a baseball cap. And this mask represents a kind of spiritual being named Banda, and it's used during rituals that were designed to protect the people against dangers, such as animal attacks and warring tribes, perhaps. And it was also used in special ceremonies that commemorated male initiations into adult society. It's still made today in Guinea, but it is used primarily for entertainment. The Banda performer carries this wooden mask, as I said, on top of its head, and attached to the underside of the headdress is a big cape made of raffia. That's a kind of grass, dried up grass. And so it covers the dancer's face and extends all the way down to their knees or even below. They perform in a flat, sort of circular arena that is in the center of the village and is accompanied by a lot of drummers playing on giant wooden slit gongs. And a slit gong is like a hollowed out tree with a big cutout slit in the center, so you can pound on it with mallets or wooden sticks, and it makes an incredible sound. It must be thrilling to see the dancers moving around in these masks. And let me show you one more image, which is the side view. You can see some beautiful West African fabric that is covering up the back of the performer. So this is a nice view because you see the exaggeration of the horns and of the animal parts and of the human eyes and nose made very, very large. And the teeth, you can see those as well. And imagine what that raffia looks like when a dancer is spinning around and flying through the air. It must be really, really something. So we combined animal and human characteristics in our mask and the idea of exaggeration to emphasize certain parts of the face, just like the West Africans did in Guinea to make the Banda mask. So I want you to know that when I was working, especially on this mask, I couldn't stop myself. I wanted to go on and on and on. And I invite you to do the same. You might want to be adding more details to your mask, to go into more three-dimensional techniques, thinking about all of the different ways that you know how to turn flat shapes into 3D by curling and fringing and twisting and folding and rolling and all of the things that we've been talking about. And so please, I invite you to do that. Now, if you've enjoyed today and you really think that you know someone who'd also like to make a mask, I hope that you will share this with them. Parents, teachers, other artists, young people, adults, kids, everybody. Please share this around. We really hope that our programs get out into the world and that everyone can benefit by doing a little art making at home with their families. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to the next time we're together here at Lincoln Center's pop-up classroom. So it's Barbara Ellmann, and I'm signing off.